Well, hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Home with Kimberly. Today we are doing apple pie filling. It's a must. You have to do this in the fall, especially if you have run out of your supply. And you'll see here that I actually used my new Amish canning cookbook. I am actually just following along with the recipe in here on page 136. Highly recommend. They have some really nice recipes in here. And I did just show you that I have my apples again all peeled, cored, and sliced. When I'm making apple pie filling, I really like to have it in thick slices. I like a good bite of apple. So to start out, after I've sliced all the apples, I am going to add in 5.5 cups of sugar to a stock pot. And to that, I'm also going to add 1.5 cups of clear gel. And make sure you have the cook type clear gel. I think they also make an instant, but you want the cook type for this recipe. For my spices for this recipe, I am following the recipe in that I'm using cinnamon and nutmeg, but you see I am also throwing in some pumpkin pie spice for a little extra flavor. I just think this combination works out perfectly well. And I do have my water bath canner ready to go. And I have it filled up about halfway or so because when you're water bath canning, you do want the water to cover your jars by a couple of inches. And I have my jars here in some hot water waiting for me. I did wash them in hot soapy water along with the lids. So now I am adding in a tablespoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then a teaspoon of my pumpkin pie spice. I'm going to mix that to my dry ingredients. And this calls for 2.5 cups of cold water and 5 cups of apple juice. But I found that apple cider at the store and I was so excited. So I actually ended up doing 6 cups of apple cider and like 1.5 cups of water. Really, you could do all apple cider or all apple juice, or you can mix the liquid up in this however you want to do. But after adding the liquid, then I am going to stir all of this around, and you're going to bring this up to kind of like a medium heat. And you're going to keep stirring this until it thickens up nicely. It like starts to bubble and it gets super thick, and you'll see that here in a minute. So you are going to be stirring this for a while. Make sure that you're not putting this up on too high of a heat to try to get this to thicken up quickly, because you will burn it on the bottom. And you don't want to do that, go through all that work and then burn it. So just on a good medium heat, I would just, you have to stir this constantly. I'd say it took me, I mean, it depends on your stovetop too. It probably took me 10 to 15 minutes before this really came up to a nice thick boil, which you'll see here in a moment. And this is a consistency that we are starting to look for. It's basically going to start looking like a caramel sauce. And right here is perfect. So when you get it to this point and it's starting to bubble up, you're going to add in 3/4 cup of bottled lemon juice, and make sure it is bottled lemon juice because you need that 5% acidity. If you use fresh lemons, you don't know exactly how much acidity you're getting. So you're going to stir that in, and you're going to stir that for about 1 minute. And once all of that is incorporated together, then very carefully I turn off the heat, and you're going to add your apples in and just fold those in. Try not to break up your apples too much. And you just want to fold that and get that incorporated as best you can. And then at this point, we are going to be ready to start filling our jars. And now the real fun begins. So I am using some tongs. I'm going to use those to grab my hot jars out of my hot water. And I found it easiest just to do this 2 jars at a time, so they would, everything would stay nice and hot, because we are going to be adding this into a very hot water canner. I'm going to bring that water pretty much up to a simmer. So just 2 at a time that I'm working with. You could see I already had my lids and my screw bands out on the towel, and I have my funnel, and I do have my debubbling tool as well. So at this point, I'm going to start filling my jars. Now, with apple pie filling, really any filling, but especially apple pie filling, it says in the book to leave 1 inch of headspace. I would highly recommend leaving a good 1.5 inches, or just bring it up to what you would call like the shoulder of the jar, the last wide part of the jar before it starts to come in to the neck of the jar, like to the narrow part. So a good 1.5 inches, because this will really expand during the water bath canning process. And when it expands, if you have it up too high, it will siphon out of your jars, which just means the liquid is going to come out under your lid and it's going to spill over a little bit. Now, I did have that happen to me the last time that I did water bath can, and I left 1 inch headspace, but that was still not enough, and I had quite a bit of siphoning. And my jars still did seal, but I don't know how long that seal would have been good for, because you have to think you have all that sticky liquid, underneath the lid itself. So I actually kind of used up that pie filling a little more quickly, just because I wasn't sure how good that seal was going to stay long term. But this time I left a good 1.5 inches of headspace, did a lot of debubbling, as you can see, and when I got my apples up to the 1.5 inch space, then I would kind of go back and add in some more of just the thick filling, the gel portion of it, the gelled portion of the pie filling. So I would try to add more of that in to kind of cover up enough with my apples. So that is all I'm doing, adding these into an 1.5 inch headspace. Once I'm finished doing that, I have my little jar of vinegar that I wipe around the top very well. That will, cut through all that stickiness. You don't want anything to impede your seal. I'll put my lid on, and then I put the screw band on fingertip tight, they call it. And then just put that into my hot water canner, and then I just proceed to the next jar. So I've got a couple here. I'll kind of show you through the process. And then we're going to get the water bath canner all loaded up, and then I'll tell you what we do on the next step. And as you can see, you guys, this is not a very fast process. There are some canning, well, there are lots of canning projects that some of them go super fast. They're easy to kind of throw together, but apple pie filling is going to take a little bit more time. Trying to get the headspace just right, and then trying to make sure you've got enough of your gelled liquid in there, the sauce in there to cover your apples. But it is well worth it, I promise you. And really, you only have to do this like once a year, honestly. I mean, unless you're making a pie like once a month or more than once a month, but this will last you a long time. It's well worth the effort. So once I have my water bath canner filled up, you're going to let this come to a rolling bubble, which I did. And I had to process this for 25 minutes. And then I took it, I turned off the heat, and then I took the lid off or put it in a jar for another 5 to 10 minutes before I pulled these jars out. And they turned out absolutely delicious. I sampled some. It is so good. One of the best apple pie filling recipes that I've ever come across. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you will give this a try. I promise you will love it. And please do leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.